Hi, Harold. How are you?
Hello. Where's everybody?
Hi there. How are you?
I'm good. Where's everybody?
I don't know. Good question.
They changed it to 9. Here we are. It's 9 p.m., right? 9 a.m.
9 p.m. I think
Okay,
that's right.
okay.
By the way, did you get the emails I sent you about?
Yes, I did. Yes,
Okay,
thank
very
you,
good.
thank you. I haven't had a chance to go through all of them, but yes.
No problem. No. Just one. I don't know. Anyways, I signed in and there was nobody here. What did I miss?
Well,
At 8 o'clock, he had some kind of meeting. That's why he changed it to 9.
Correct.
But, okay.
Yeah.
Let me just find out where everybody is.
I don't know. I guess we don't do well with change. And that could be.
is there an update? Oh, here we are. Good.
Hi there.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening.
Ernie.
Hello, everybody. I think we left off. I think we did the Mishnah Berurah. I think we're on 74. Correct?
That sounds right.
We learned the Mishnah Berurah, which that Ashkenazi women should recite the Shemona Esrei of Shachar and Mincha every day. According to some views, they must also recite Musaf on days when it's recited. Now, some Ashkenazi women nevertheless fulfill their obligation with a short petition and do not recite the Shemona Esrei. Remember, we learned that Meikar Adin Midoraisa, as long as they say a Tefila, they're Yotzei. And an explanation for this practice is offered by Rabbi Yekusiel Yehuda Halberstam, the Klosenberger Rebbe, the Divrei Yotzi. V'ulai yesh loymar od, lefi masha kosav b'simen ayin, da'oisik b'tzorchei rabim lo yafs. That means if people who are occupied in tzorchei rabim should not be mafsik to daven. So he says women who have little children, if they have to daven multiple times, they're not going to be able to take care of the children. So heavy ka'oisik b'mitzvah, poter b'mitzvah. So he dons it like somebody who's an oisik b'mitzvah, you're potter. The gabdish is baila lea, and he has to take care of the husband as well. Achal zeh yesh laha'ir shekeven shestomah deshas kamer chayovim v'lo yichashashu lezeh. That, but if the Shah said that they're chayiv and not concerned about taking care of children, how can we come up with our own svaras against Shas? Which is that they only said a short tefillah. Kiven de b'shas erevin yichoni liftor midin tefillah shnemar schuras v'lo miyayin. I could potter everybody from tefillah to say that you're like a shikr without from wine. Meaning, it's very difficult for people to have proper kavanah. So maybe it's better to say something short where you can be machavin properly. So I'll call ponim yesh smach gadol l'noshim bizman hazeh she'enon begerer yom edesatzbo sheyach l'chavin. They don't fit the description of that. Can they assess themselves whether they can have kavana? Because some of the lashon ramah, va'id nein chazru mishum chisorin kavana. Today we don't go back and repeat Shemon Esrei if we didn't have right kavana. She'af b'chazar karvu shelo yichavin. The Magen Avraham points out that kavana is such a problem that most people don't have proper kavana. The Kalva Chaimer l'nashim the treaty tuva rishus palem aleim v'ataf tluim be'em lezen nogu rov nashim shem is palos bitmidos. The Klosenberger says this is why the women have a minig not to necessarily daven. They should, when they have the ability to focus properly. Right? The first explanation for the Divrei Yotzev is that women are exempt from tefillah because they are constantly involved in mitzvahs. One who's engaged in the mitzvahs is exempt from other mitzvahs like tefillah. He rejects this explanation because the Gemara does not distinguish between women who are engaged in childcare and other duties. The second explanation is based on the Gemara, which states that a person who's not settled and able to focus on tefillah is exempt from it. So on this basis, the Divrei Yotzev claims that because women are often very busy and unable to focus on tefillah, they are exempt. But by this reasoning, when women are not taking care of children or involved with other households, they should follow the ruling of the Mishnah Berurah and not rely on the practice recorded by the Magen Avraham to say only one small petition. Right? The Mishnah Berurah said they should daven at least Shachris and Mincha, and the women should gather themselves during that period of time and daven. The Piskei Teshuvos cites this Divrei Yotzev. The minig is according to the Psak Hoirah of the great Gedolei Yisrael. Sheisha be'esh she'ein itutea biyodeh litfanos lispal keseder tefillah b'mtinas v'yishuv adas. Rishoyis, if someone cannot calm herself and compose herself properly because she's busy with her children, Rishoyis lisvach la Magen Avraham will istapik b'tefillah k'tzara pamachas b'yom. Right, the Magen Avraham said to fulfill the mitzvah deraisa, or even midrabanan, of the davening once a day. You can make one small tefillah. Bakosha shvach v'idol HaKadosh Baruch Hu pamachas b'yom. And he says in parentheses, Bamiras Birchas HaShachar, Yoitzois Yidei Choyvaso B'Shvach Uvakosha V'Idor. If you say the Birchas HaShachar, you'll fulfill everything. V'toimer Zos Ba'boiker Oid Kodem Achilasa, she should say the brachos before she eats. V'nochon Shetoyom Agam Posek Rishon Shel Kriya Shema, Ubaruch Shem, Kidei Lekabel Malchus Shamayim. Uve'eit Asher Itutea B'Yadeh, but if she has more control over time, even it's rare. Afilu hili itim rechokos. Vena davar al cheshbon tzorchi bailo yiladeh. And it doesn't come at the expense of her husband or children's needs. Ushar inyoni abayis amutam aleh. Yesh litzpal shachris umincha. Like the Mishnah Berurah said. Utfila shachris tispal kaseder. The hainu birchas haTorah birchas hashachar. She should say birchas haTorah, birchas hashachar, the akeda v'korbanos, psuki de zimra, birchas kriyashma, tefillah shmon esrei, asher v'alitzion shir shel yom, and then alein l'shabech. V'im yesh la koishi b'amiris kol seder tefillah. If this is too hard, yichol l'katzu l'asher v'alitzion ve'elech akedas v'korbanos. She can get rid of asher v'alitzion, the akeda and korbanos. That means she should say birchas hashachar in the morning when she wakes up, and then shmon esrei at a minimum. V'chayeves b'ntilas yadayim. He basically gives a primer for women in the morning. He says they are chayev b'ntilas yadayim if they call tefila kanoshim. If Zman Tefila ends in the end of the 4th hour, she should daven before then. Those that we learned are mekel until Chatzos. She has somebody to rely on. After Chatzos, she should no longer say Baruch She'amar. She shouldn't say Yishtabach, Ubirchas Kriyashma, Shemana Esrei Deshachris. What she could say if it's after Chatzos is Birchas HaTorah, Ubirchas HaShachar, Be'efsherusa Loimar Kol Hayom. These could be said all day. V'im ein ituta b'yadeh litpal Shachris. If she doesn't have the time to say Shachris, Avol be'efsherata litpal Tfilas Mincha. Let's say her schedule is such that she can daven Mincha Tasaking, Uvishachar, and in the morning to stop it with Birchas HaShachar. One of the famous sources that is mentioned in support of the exemption for women who are busy at home comes from none other than the Chafetz Chaim, who rules that women are obligated in Shmon Esrei Shachris and Mincha, as cited by his son in the Hilchos of Chafetz Chaim. Imi Zal, that's the Chafetz Chaim's wife, Kimat v'lo yispala kol zman shelo yatzanu mitachos yadeh. He recalls that he doesn't remember her davening until we were out grown up. B'amrali, when she told me, Ki avi patra mizeh, the mother told the son that the father, the Chafetz Chaim, had told her that she's pater, mishum shi oseka begidul baneh, because she was involved in raising the children. Now, among Sephardic poskim, the opinion of Rav Ben Zion Abba Shaul is that women are mechuyev to recite Shachris and Mincha if they have the time. Noshem chayavas lispal b'chol yom tefillah Shachris and tefillas Mincha, u'v'yom sheish bo tefillas Musaf chayavas gam tefillas Musaf. They're chayiv Musaf u'tefillas Arvis ein chayavas lispalal. They're not chayiv to daven ma'ariv b'chol mokom im yichol tov shispalal gam tefillas Arvis. There's not a chiyuv, but if they can do it, they can do it. A woman is occupied with her children the whole day. They're potter. However, Rav Ovadia Yosef writes that women may suffice with reciting one prayer a day, in accordance with the ruling of the Rambam and the ruling of the Shulchan Aruch as understood by the Magen Avraham that we explained. Says the Abi Omer Ha'ikar Kedivra Achronim Anal, Shaldas Harif Rambam Umarana Shulchan Aruch Dai L'Noshem B'Tefila Achas Shi Min HaTorah. Min HaTorah, a woman is with one tefillah, which we said is like Birchas HaShachar. V'chein Das Bala Eshkol Rabbi Yishaya Mitrani V'Arashba, other major Rishonim. Ukvar Katafti Kain B'Shut Yabia Omer Chelik Vav. V'chein Ikar. Uduloka Machaber Or L'Tzion, he argues with Rav Ben Zion Abba Shaul, Shekosar Shchev Zanoshim B'Tefillah Shachris U'Mincha, he disagrees with the Or L'Tzion. Okay. 78, page 78. The Gemara Masechta Brachas explains that a person who is oisik b'mitzvah, who is engaged in the mitzvah, is exempt from other mitzvahs. Chosen, potter mikriyas shema laila rishona. Chosen is potter from kriyas shema, first night of his wedding. Ad motzei Shabbos im la'asa ma'isa. Usually they got married Wednesday night and they had until motzei Shabbos 4 days. Ton rabbanon b'shivtecha b'veisecha prat lo oisik b'mitzvah. That b'shivtecha b'veisecha, when you're at home or when you're walking somewhere, but that's prat lo oisik b'mitzvah. If it's, you're exempt if you're oisik in a mitzvah. However, in Masechta Sukkah, the Gemara clarifies that this doesn't mean that being busy with voluntary activities, which are tirdas reshus, exempts one from mitzvahs. One is exempt only if from one mitzvah if one is busy doing another mitzvah, not if one is doing your own personal needs. I mean, what? When somebody's mind is occupied, he's potter. A person has his merchandise on a boat, and it's sinking. So hachanami the potter, and maybe you'll say, yeah, he's potter. A mourner is chai b'chol mitzvahs l'nutz b'Torah. Chutz b'nat tefillin shari nemar kan pe'er. He doesn't have to put a tefillin on because pe'er is called tefillin is called pe'er. He is like beauty, and by an avel can't be pe'er, but he's chai in other mitzvahs, and so there's nobody. So you see, just because you have some kind of personal tirda doesn't exempt you from mitzvahs. So the Gemara answers, hacha tar tirda the mitzvah. When you're tar tirda the mitzvah, like a chosen, he's occupied in getting pru'ervu, so there he's involved in a mitzvah. He's potter in other mitzvahs. Hasam in a ship, tar tirdas the reshus. That's his personal business. Doing, yes, he can do the business. No, he can't do the business. So that now Rashi clarifies. Imishum tirda, if it was just being occupied, hay de parech mashmalei, dirtu dosu potrasu lefishenu yachal chavnes libo. Rashi tells the Havamina of this Gemara is, well, if he's got things on his mind, maybe he can't mechavin. So maybe the Havamina was a hilcha chafilu tovis v'nasa detar b'tzar lifter. So maybe the Havamina was that even if your boat was sinking and you're not torrid b'mitzvah, you would also be potter. But they bring a proof from Avel that he's chayiv and everything except for tefillin. Shneimar ban pe'er. The Avel lav bar pe'erhu, right? An Avel cannot show splendor. But all other things he was chayiv to do mitzvahs. But Chosens explains the Gemara's Torah to the mitzvah. Vashmin and Kra, when it says in the pasuk b'shichta b'veisecha prad lo'isik b'mitzvah, the lo machai is lahasir data b'machshavas mitzvah rishoina b'shvil zu abala. Person does have a chiyuv to remove his machshava from one mitzvah and to divert it to another mitzvah. Ela yasuk rishona v'yitin libo lios baki b'davar. He should be an expert in whatever he's doing. And that's why he's potter from the next mitzvah. But tirda de reshus, his boat is sinking, says Rashi, Shabbal Bishu Chayiv Lina Gavelus, or let's say an Avel, who's Chayiv, he's got other minhagim, like Shalnila or Chitz Sichel Aros Kvad Meso. Eino Chayiv Litztayer. He's not Chayiv to me Mitztayer, and therefore he may do other mitzvahs. The Shulchan Aruch rules in accordance with the Gemara that a chassan is exempt from reciting Kriya Shema because he's oisik b'mitzvah. But the Shulchan Aruch adds that the preoccupation of the chassan was only concerned in earlier generations, when people were able to have proper intent for mitzvahs. Hakonis is absula shesh Shulchan Aruch potter. Mikriya Shema Gimel Yomim. He was exempt from Kriya Shema in loss of Maisaf. He hadn't had relations. Mipnei shu Torah tirdas mitzvah. Says the Shulchan Aruch, that's in earlier years. When they're doing mitzvos, person doesn't having kavana the way they used to. Gama koinis is absula kore, so he's not exempt from Kriya Shema. He has to read Kriya Shema chosin because ben kach uben kach he's not having the proper kavana. Now, reciting Shmon Esrei requires special focus and a higher level of concentration than when doing other mitzvahs. And that is reflected in the Shulchan Aruch in the following source. Orach Chaim Tzadi Gimel, Ein oimdim liyispal mitoch din. If you're in Beis Din and you just concluded some kind of Beis Din, v'lo mitoch halacha, or you're in a halacha sugya, you don't daven Shmon Esrei. Shelo yehi libo tarud ba, ela mitoch halacha psuka. If you study a halacha like a Mishnah Berurah that's paskind already, so that you can daven. But something that you're going to be thinking back and forth, oh, what does the Rashba hold? It hasn't been clarified yet. So there you shouldn't daven. Says the Ramah, Harunami kamo metoch simcha. Keep kudei Hashem Yisrael misamchei leiv. The Ramah says that you want to get up in a state of joy. For this reason, the sages sometimes exempt people from reciting Shemona Esrei when it's clear that they cannot concentrate, even though they are not preoccupied with the mitzvah. One example is one was confronted with life-threatening danger. In such a case, the Gemara rules that one recites only a special paragraph asking for Hashem's salvation, but does not recite the regular length Shemona Esrei. And the Shulchan Aruch codifies this. You're walking through a dangerous forest where there are wild animals or highway robbery men. Then mispalot tzorchei amcha merubim. You do a shortened tefila. You don't have to do the beginning and 3 brachos, last 3 brachos. You don't have to stand. You could walk. Maybe you can stand. When he gets to the city and his mind is calm, and the Mishnah Berurah explains that the reason for this tour is because he doesn't have Yishuv Adas. So Patru. So they exempted him. Havinenu is a shortened tefillah, but they don't even have to make him do that. They make him do a shorter version. And later on, he's choizer mispalo. Hainu imlo over adayin zman, as long as it's still within the time. Another example of exemption from tefillah is when a person is engaged in important communal affairs and is not able to pray while working. The Shulchan Aruch rules that one should not pray, should not interrupt your communal service. You're occupied with the public works. He shouldn't stop working. As long as he has time to read Kriya Shema. Now, do these types of exemptions still apply? So a number of contemporary poskim discuss this. And the Piskei Teshuvah summarizes some of the achronim. Ainu Eitev b'Mishnah Berurah b'Halacha, in this Orach Chaim Ayin, umaskanas dvar shekol ha'oseh b'tzorchei tzibur, somebody who's working on behalf of the tzibur, ve'ein shami she'ishtadel b'zelahu, and there's nobody else who can do it. Maybe he's working on saving somebody's money. Somebody's going to pay him for doing it. He shouldn't stop doing his work. unless he knows for sure that he can stop and complete and then daven and then come back and complete the work without causing financial loss. Now let's say the Zman Tefila has come and he's working on Tzorchei Tzibur. Ein tzorch lafsik. Ela shebchai gavna yitzorch lispal tefila tashlumim b'tefila sakroiva. Unless he will miss the Zman and has to recite a tefila tashlumim.
So this looks like it could result in an anomalous result. So if your ship is sinking and you're trying to save it, you're not putter from Kriya Shema and Shemona Esrei. But if you're working to help you save your fellow, your friend's ship, you can. Which is an interesting distinction.
Because that's considered Tzorchei Tzibur.
Yeah, that's what he says. If it's only to working to save his fellow's property.
Lafuke mischil lifnei shegizman tefila shemidina ein tzorch lahashlim. Me'ikar adin, if he did it before the zman tefila, he doesn't have to do at tashlumim. Nachon sheyashav etnaid in nedava. He should make a statement that this is a tefillas nedava because it may not necessarily be obligated. Omnan yesh la'adgish, he emphasizes l'tzayim b'nei halacha zu ki bizmanenu shekimad ein motzu sheyasku beize inyan zman. He says today nobody does something where you don't stop for eating or drinking or some break. He says Bizman hazeh, everyone should stop for Kriya Shema Tefila. Al kol ponim b'diluig ashrei yishtabach Kriya Shema v'choser Shemona Esrei. Ela Rishon levatel tefillas b'tzibur. They have to say Kriya Shema Tefila, or in an abridged version, like he said, Baruch Shamar Asher Yishtabach Kriya Shema, and the brachos of Kriya Shema Shemona Esrei. But he doesn't have to daven in a minyan. Lachen Gabbai bote knesius midrash, like a Gabbai tzedakah, ushar asknei atzibur b'tzorchei refuah. Ushar yonei haklal v'aprat, or haroifim, v'chol hametaplim b'choilim, v'chol ha'oiskim b'shmira al shalom hatzibur, like Magen Am, v'haganosa b'mazikim v'chablim, people who are security people. Ein lahem lischavik b'chiyuv Kriya Shema Tefila. They should still daven Kriya Shema Tefila. Ela im kein eina inish lifneim soivel dichui v'idmamuk, as long as whatever you're working on will tolerate a short delay. Or let's say they can't even break for even a second. Somebody can't fill their spot. Like if to do it as well as they do. So if there's no one who can fulfill in and they can't take a break, even then, they should say Kriya Shema first pasuk in Baruch Shem. If there's time before Chatzois and they're finished with their emergency, they should read Kol Seder Tefila with the Birchos Kriya Shema Shemona Esrei, and if it's after Chatzois Hayom, they shouldn't eat. The Sefer Isha Yisrael on Tefillah also addresses this question within the context of doctors or nurses. It rules that any treatment or care that is required immediately takes precedence, and the doctor or nurse should not interrupt in order to daven. But if the need is not immediate, they should daven first. Says the Isha Yisrael, Roife, Achois, a nurse, V'chadoim ha'oiskim b'tipul b'choyle, im ha'choyle zokuk achshav l'tipulim, if the sick person needs treatment now, P'turim mikriya shema mitfila. It's potter. V'asr lehem la'afsik k'dei likros. It's an isser to be mafsik, doing the medical work. Omnam, im ena tipul nochutz b'regas, if it's not an emergency needed this second, V'yicholim below tircha lafsikas hatipul. They can stop the treatment. Yifsiku. They should read Kriya Shema and daven. Then v'yachzru l'tipulam. Kol makom osur lam la'askel b'avodosam lachar shekvar giz man Kriya Shema Tefila. Once the time of Kriya Shema Tefila have come, they should not start the work, especially if they know that they're not going to have enough time to pray after the work is finished. Im yodim shalot yelem shas l'tefila lachar siyum ha'avoda. That's, of course, only if there's no pikuach nefesh. He's trying to say that if there's pikuach nefesh, it's not true that they're forbidden for beginning to work. They need to work right away. The Yalkut Yosef discusses yeshiva fundraiser and cities conflicting the opinions on the matter without offering a definitive ruling. Shlichei moistos Torah meshulach haoskim begvias kesef l'mesoidoseyim. Yeshamim shepturim mitfila u'mikriya shema. Yeshamim shein lepoter mitfila. Some say no. The davka b'doras harishonim shey oskim matzibul shem shemayim. Hayu ptur mitfila kriya. Aval lo bizman hazeh. V'yesh shekos of the avsha poter min ha-mitzvah yishtadel shlo lifter atzmam chiyuv tefila. Even though technically he's poter in the mitzvah, he shouldn't make himself potter from Tefila. Then there's a nice little graph. Let's read the Machshava, page 85. We learned above that according to the Rambam, the obligation of Tefillah is midaraisa, while according to the Ramban, it's midrabanan. We also learned that the Ramban may agree that the obligation is midaraisa in an Eitzara, time of distress. Rav Soloveitchik suggests, and that the Rambam may agree with this idea as well. This is from Rav Abraham Bezdin, from Reflections of the Rav. The views of Rambam and Ramban can be reconciled. Both regarded prayer as meaningful, only if it's derived from a sense of tzara. They differ in their understanding of the word. Maimonides regarded daily life itself as being existentially in dire straits, inducing in the sensitive person feelings of despair, a brooding sense of life's meaninglessness, absurdity, lack of fulfillment. It is persistent sorrow, which exists b'chol yom, daily. The word sorrow connotes more than external trouble. Certainly, when David HaMelech says, "Min ha-meitzar karasi ka," out of my straits I have called upon the Lord, it refers to an inner rather than externally induced state of constriction and oppression. While Ramban dealt only with surface crisis, Sorat HaTzibur, public distress, the Rambam regarded all life as a depth crisis, a tzoras yachid. According to Rav Soloveitchik, the Rambam holds that daily tefillah is also necessary as a response to an eitz tzara, since everything in life is considered an eitz tzara. Now, Rav Soloveitchik would not likely feel that a person should always be in despair or crying over how difficult life is. But he would say that a person must pray on a daily basis for everything in life, since nothing in life can be taken for granted. And one should ask Hashem for everything one needs, big or small. Another important point that Rav Soloveitchik developed based on the Rambam was the idea of emotion within tefillah. Rav Soloveitchik writes that tefillah does not consist merely of reciting words. Tefillah is truly avoda shebelev, through which a person channels his emotions to connect to Hashem. Rambam held that prayer is identical with service of the heart, an idea that is, according to the Rambam, all-encompassing and all-pervasive, and which represents the essence of man's relationship with God. According to Rambam, it is impossible to conceive of divine worship without including prayer in it. What then is prayer? It is the expression of the soul that yearns for God via the medium of the word, through which the human being gives expression to the storminess of his soul and spirit. When Rambam said that prayer is biblically ordained and identical with the service of the heart, he thereby redeemed love, fear, and indeed our entire religious life from muteness. They were given a voice. The lover expresses his yearning, the trembler is fear, and the joyful is religious song, all within the framework of prayer. May we merit to successfully incorporate both ideas of Rav Soloveitchik into our daily lives. Yasher koach, everybody. I'm going to stop a little earlier today because we started late, and we'll start with Kavana Vamida during Shemona Esrei next week, page 99. Any comments, questions, or arrows?
Hello?
Yes, Jacob.
Yeah, I recall a story in Europe with the Chofetz Chaim. There was a big meeting of Rabbonim for a big Osket Tzibur, some issue that, was encompassing all the areas and cities and everything like that. And some of the people came over, Chofetz Chaim, we have to take a break from Mincha. He says, we're not davening Mincha, we're Isaac in this, and we keep on.
There you go. He paskined the way we learned tonight, right?
Exactly.
Very
I
nice.
wonder what the parameters of Tzarchei Tzibur is. I mean, what does that mean? Does it have to be the whole kahal? Because we saw the reference to helping another person. And how far does that go?
What if a shul was having a board meeting?
That's a good, board meetings shouldn't be scheduled during time of davening, but sometimes they get very heated and go on. So I just wonder about.
Right, what's the get there? What's the get there?
Yeah, what's together? What does that mean? And also the comment that today we don't like get involved in something. I forgot who made the comment that we don't get involved in something that we just forget. Oh, it's here. It's the Pesach Tshuva. In our time, we almost never find that people work at something for an extended period without taking a break to eat, drink. That's someone who hasn't prepared for a trial, because when you get in that mode, it's like you don't do any of these things. So
Yeah.
they still go on.
Yeah.
And we can all probably relate to something in our experience about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, absolutely. We were, sometimes you started a surgery very early in the morning before Zman Tefila. You had to say Kriya Shema, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Olam Vad. You had to, you were involved in a 6-hour surgery. You might have started at 6 o'clock in the morning before Zman Tefila.
Right.
Lasted, and that's oftentimes that's happened.
Interesting things to think about.
But what you said is very interesting. The issue of helping your friend with his monetary issue, but you can't help yourself.
Right.
We definitely should clear that a little bit. And okay, very good, everybody. Have a great week.
Thanks. Be
Bye,
well.
everybody.
Thank you.
Ernie,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
yeah, you can all answer that by, Olam Chesed Yibane. So Chesed seems to be much more important than yourself. If you're doing a Chesed for someone else, that takes precedence over yourself, always.
Yep. It's very clear.
Yeah.
What Yaakov said.
Yeah, okay,
Okay, very good, everybody.
bye.
Good night.